Hey strong artists, in this video we're going to be drawing a peace sign with a design-filled border on top of a tie-dyed piece of paper. Materials for this project are linked in the description below, so grab what you need and let's get started. A few notes before we begin. 1, you're going to notice that I use Sharpie first a lot. If that intimidates you, start with pencil. You can always trace your designs. This will help you actually slow down and edit your process as you go. Also, I knew the designs I was going to use before I started this demonstration. I suggest that you practice your zentangle patterns before you start your final. I've linked patterns in the description below as well as a zentangle practice sheet for you so you can do as much as you want before you get started. Practice makes progress. You will always do better on the second, third, fourth, fifth time you do this. Next, if you're feeling intimidated or don't have a ruler or circle tracers to make your border and your peace sign, I have templates linked in the description below for you to download and print, and you can skip that initial step. Last thing, when we get to the tie-dye section, you're going to notice that my aluminum foil has a black frame. It's one little Sharpie line. I didn't want to have to color the entire sheet, so what I did is I took my paper before I got started, put it flat on the aluminum foil, and just traced a border around it. That way I knew the exact size my paper would be. This is an optional step, but it's helpful when you place your artwork down and tie-dye the sheet. That's all I've got for you. Now really, let's get to work. We're going to start this project by drawing a border around the edge of our paper. So take your ruler and line it up on the far edge of your page. The far edge is the opposite of whatever hand you write with. For example, I'm right-handed, so my ruler is on the left. You can use a pencil or a Sharpie to draw a straight line down from edge to edge. Then turn your paper. Line your ruler to this edge, hold it in 2 places so it won't wobble, and again, from top to bottom, edge to edge, draw a straight line down. And try not to push your Sharpie or pencil against the ruler. Think of it more like gliding right next to it. The ruler is your support, so you can draw a really smooth, straight line. One final side, and we are done with this border. The next step of this lesson is to add the peace sign. You can choose any circle tracers you have. I center it by eye. I use my fingers here. See, I'm just kind of guessing. And again, same for top and the bottom. If you want to get real strict with your measurements, you could use your ruler and try to measure it out, but nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to notice except you. To trace the circle, I am going to use a pencil first just to make sure. I start at the bottom of the circle and go around. Notice how I crossed my hands. That way I don't end up like traffic jamming with my own arm. Bam! Lovely. What I'm going to do is put that circle right back down where I started and trace with my Sharpie. You can skip the pencil step if you're feeling brave. Notice, over my hand, from the bottom around the circle, and my Sharpie is always pointing towards the inside. It's almost at an angle. That way I don't miss the circle. Now I'm going to use a slightly smaller one. I used that from a mason jar cap. Excellent way to go. Eyeball it. I like it. Going to hold it right in the center. From the bottom, trace again. Next, I'm going to add a vertical line down the center. Notice I'm kind of eyeballing it. I'm guessing where the center is, and I make a starting and stopping point. Then, grab my handy dandy ruler. I'm feeling brave, going for it straight with Sharpie. If you're feeling a little worried, do it in pencil first. We're going to add one line first, and then a second to make it a little wider. Again, I'm all eyeballing it, so it's similar-ish to the line I just made. When in doubt, go smaller than you think because you can always add, much harder to subtract. Again, trusty fingers. This will help you get the proper angles, create a start and stop point, make an identical starting point on the opposite side, use your ruler to really guess where the next angle goes, park your finger where the other end spot goes, and all you have to do now is connect the dots. Here you're going to notice I flip my page. I do that because it's just easier for me to see the right angle. Next, we're just going to color that in. Use gentle strokes and try to stay in the lines the best you can. Notice when I color the circle, I only do a little bit at a time and I keep turning the page. This is so my mark making is consistent. It forces me to slow down my process so I don't rush and accidentally get Sharpie all over the place. The next part of this project is adding designs. Use simple lines you know to make some designs in the top, bottom, side-to-side sections. I keep this fairly simple. I'm going for zigzags first, and notice I'm not just drawing one big zigzag line all in a row. I'm breaking it down line by line. Start simple, build slow. Turn the page, always a fan of turning the page, one line at a time. And feel free to change up your Sharpie thickness. You can use a different kind of marker to make it bigger or smaller. You can double up your lines like we did with the peace sign. It's totally up to you. And if you want to do a different design in every single compartment of the page, do it. If you want to do the same design on the entire perimeter, the outside, do it. You're the artist. You have a voice. You have a choice. Do what feels right. I'm going to draw curvy lines in my side sections just to show a little contrast, a little difference from the top and bottom and side to side. Are the lines identical? No. Does it matter? Not at all. And again, you're going to notice I do this in Sharpie. You can do this in pencil first and then trace over. It just adds a little bit more time and an extra step. But it also ensures that you can practice at least once before you start your final. So here you see I'm just adding little circles, one big, two small, going straight down my curved lines. I'm going to do this on both sides. I'll see you when it's done. Voila! Here now I'm going to move on to the squares. Sometimes it can be fun here to add your initials, a fun little message for whoever this might be for. Totally up to you. Now to make these a little more interesting, I'm going to color them in so they look like actual checkerboards. Now in looking at my piece, I think I could use a little bit more detail on my zigzag patterns. So I'm just going back and adding some more vertical lines. You don't have to get super complex at the start. Remember, start simple, build slow. And now that I'm done with the vertical lines, I think I want to make some more contrast on my circle parts. So I'm just coloring in some of the circles. Now that I'm done with the designs, it's time to tie-dye the background. What you're going to need for this part of the project are washable markers, a spray bottle filled with a little bit of water, and a piece of aluminum foil. The reason we use aluminum foil is because the marker can't soak in. It's not porous like paper, so the marker sinks into the paper. It just sits on top of the aluminum foil. So what you're going to notice is that your marker color looks a lot lighter on the foil than it will on your paper. don't worry. I also don't want you to worry about covering every single little spot because your marker lines are going to spread when you add the water. So this should be a somewhat quick process. Don't worry about the details. What I'm going to do is kind of a circular pattern and just build outwards. You could do this in a horizontal, a vertical pattern, diagonal. You can even get a spiral going, which looks super cool. Experiment. And if you're feeling worried at first about doing this for the first time on your final design, put the final aside, grab a scrap paper, and try this process first. Then you'll know what kind of designs you're gonna get. You'll know how your marker color and the water behave, because it's a learning opportunity, right? And speaking of learning opportunities, let me take a moment to talk about how I'm holding my marker. Notice I am not coloring with the tippity tip. I am using the widest part of the marker, which means I have to hold it a little higher, closer towards the middle of the marker, so I can get that side edge. You don't want to be coloring this with the teeny weeny tip because it will take you forever. Now, let's talk a little bit about the colors I'm using. I here am choosing to use the cool colors. I like to choose colors that blend really well together. If we look at the color wheel, colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, those are called analogous colors. Those are going to blend really, really well together. Colors that are opposite each other, complementary, like red and green, those can tend to make browns. So just be careful in how you arrange your colors. There's no such thing as a wrong color set. It's just what you want. But if you want that easy, smoother blending, stick to the colors that are neighbors on the color wheel. All right, the aluminum foil is full. And what I'm gonna do is hold my water like 8 inches from the aluminum foil. I don't want it right next to it or I'm gonna get really pointed puddles. You just wanna spray. Spray, 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 spray. And don't be shy. You can add a lot of spray. Put your water aside. You're gonna take your paper. And once you put it down, it's gotta stay down. So with confidence, press it. And you're gonna gently massage. Don't forget the edges. And it's a gentle rub and massage. You don't want to do it too fast because you don't want to crinkle and wrinkle your paper by accident. Your foil might be crinkly and wrinkly already, and that might leave a certain kind of texture, which you cannot control. Aluminum foil is just going to act the way it's going to act. Sometimes it's crinkly and wrinkly. Either way, it's going to look like an awesome texture. Take your time. Now hold the foil and peel back your paper to reveal the tie-dye. Now I want you to look at that little empty spot of color. I can fix that. All I have to do is add a little bit more water to the aluminum foil right where it was. And I'm gonna place my paper down as exactly as I can. It will not be perfect, but because I know these colors blend well together, I don't mind. And I'm just gonna rub that spot one more time, peel it away, bam, fully covered. Now when you're done with your aluminum foil, you don't have to throw it away. Take your water, spray the whole thing, and with a clean paper towel, wipe it in one direction, nice and clean. You can start fresh on another piece. Thanks for creating this peace sign design with me. I hope you had fun tie-dyeing the paper. That's my favorite part. If you like this style of line project, get ready because next week I have an even more challenging project for you to try. But this time it'll be on a watercolor gradient background. It's awesome. So stay tuned, keep practicing, and happy creating, friends.